Hey y'all, it is Dream from where the yokels grow, and after filming my last video with planting the seeds, I have some volunteer tomatoes that are in some garden beds and that have popped up in the ground out here in the yard. And I was going to transplant them, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to take you all along because I know there are some new beginner gardeners who have this. It's your second year garden, you go to your garden, you see a volunteer tomato and you don't know what to do with it. Can you transplant it? Can you move it? Absolutely, you can do that. So if you are new here, welcome, and if you are returning, I am so glad to see you again. Let's get them up potted. Okay, I thought I would show you these tomatoes. This is the one right here, this big one that I initially was going to transplant. While over here investigating it, I found a second one right here, and then I found a little tiny one right there. Now when you're transplanting your volunteer plants, tomatoes, whatever, it really comes down to the size of container that you're going to up pot them into. This big one right here needs a big container. So I have a 5-gallon, I think that's a 5-gallon container, and you can see how much soil I have in there. And I'll dig a hole right in the center, and I'll record it, but I'll dig a hole and we'll try and put that root as far down as we can and then fill the soil up around it tightly. And then with this little medium-sized one, this is the size of container. I want to say these are gallon containers. They might be a gallon or a half-a-gallon container. It's just something that I saved, and you can see how much soil is in there. So again, we'll put it in there and then we'll fill around it tightly with soil and water it in really good. And then of course this itty-bitty one, she's tiny. We're going to use the same size of container, but you can see how much soil is in there. So we'll be making a hole there and making that soil really tight. Now let me show you the smaller ones. Okay, so this is a raised bed. This raised bed we're going to take. In this raised bed last year we had Sun Gold and Sweet 100, and a lot of them just dropped. But you can see now we have little volunteers. There's one here. Oops, sorry about that. One right there. And we have one right there. And one here. And then another one right here. And of the 5, this is the smallest one. So when you find your volunteer tomatoes and you recognize that it's tomato, these are its first leaves when it comes up out of the ground. And these little guys, oops, sorry about that. Right here on top, those are their second leaves, and that's when you know it's ready to transplant. Now these little guys we're just going to put into these 4-inch pots. Now something I'm going to say about these tomatoes is these tomatoes I'm going to use in my container series. So I will be doing a whole nother series again this summer of container planting for those of you who are in smaller spaces. So here we go. Here is our little 4-inch pot. I'm just going to take my finger and move the soil around just like that. Now I'm just using just a regular potting mix, nothing special. I'll move this out of my way. Okay, just a regular shovel. You're going to put it in there, go as deep as you can, and gently lift. You can see those roots are kind of deep in there. And there we go, we got her. Okay, so there she is, little bitty thing. We're going to plant her as deep as she can go, putting that soil all around her, just like that. And there we go, our first little one is transplanted. Now we'll get the rest done. Okay, there we go. We have all 5 of those transplanted. And now we'll move over to the bigger ones. Now, her roots are probably a little deeper. So here we go. You just got to go slow on these bigger ones. Don't try to be herky-jerky with it. There we go. Pull that grass out. Careful with that root. And she's in. Let me go get some soil. I wasn't prepared. Straighten her up. Remember to pat as you go. Remember, we want that soil strong around her. And what's going to happen is the stem will make more roots down below. We just keep patting it down. There we go. And I have no idea what kind of tomato she's going to be. There you go. It is in. Okay, I'm going to attempt to get it with the little shovel first. I don't know if I can, but we'll see. I've got the bucket ready, so let's try it. Okay, we're going to try this again. This time we got a bigger shovel. And I moved the tree out of the way, so that will be helpful. Okay, so now we have gotten that one transplanted. I had to stake it up, of course, because it was big. But I want to show you something. Do you all see this little tomato that's growing? Well, it's not a tomato, it's a branch. And it's growing from this Y. These are what are called suckers. I'm not going to do it right now. She's starting to get tomatoes. I'm going to let it rest because we've just transplanted it. But I'm going to come back out and I'm going to grab that little sucker right there. And I will stick it in some water. As soon as it creates roots, we'll put it into a container and we will have a free tomato from this one tomato. And I moved these two. I'm gonna have to put a little stake in this one. I've got another bamboo stake, and this one right here. We're gonna get all these watered in and we'll just leave them out here and they should be just fine. So we got them all transplanted out of the raised bed and out of the ground. The ones in the raised bed, I knew where those came from. The ones that are over here in the ground by the cherry trees, have no idea. No idea, but they grew and we're going to use them in our container series. So if you are new here and you want to see their journey, you might consider subscribing so you can see the container series that's getting ready to start, because we are also going to be growing corn in containers, and I know that can be a little daunting for people who have never done it. But for now, we're talking about the tomatoes. They'll look a little wilty like they look right now, but you give them about 24 hours once they soak up the nutrients out of this soil. We're going to put a little blood meal in here too, and they will be fine. Well, you can see how these ones look, but then you look at these small ones, and it's like we never even touched them. But these bigger ones will look kind of wilty for probably 24 hours, and then they'll perk right back up and will be just fine. It just takes them, they're in shock right now. That's what's happening. They're not dying, they're just in shock. Here it is. It's been raining. This is the second day. We're about to go into our third and fourth and fifth day. It makes it really hard when you're doing gardening, but I wanted to show you what these tomatoes that we transplanted together look like 48 hours later. Okay, so I've had them in the greenhouse now. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm pretty sure these little tomatoes are either going to be Sweet 100s or the Sun Gold tomatoes, because where I got them from, that's what was planted there. But this big one, let me show you the big one 48 hours later. Remember how she was all wilted and being dramatic? Now she's doing just fine. Well, she started to put flowers on her, and if I am going to guess, I'm going to say that this tomato is probably going to be a cherry tomato, probably as big as it is already, probably a large cherry, and I'm basing that off of the new little clusters of flowers who have shown up, which probably means that this one and this one are probably cherry tomatoes as well, because where they were, the chickens got a lot of tomatoes and they got a lot of cherry tomatoes. So I'm pretty sure all of these are going to be a cherry tomato or a Sweet 100. But there they are in all their basking glory. Consider giving us a like and a thumbs up. It helps our channel to grow. Or if you're returning, you could do that as well. It would be greatly appreciated. Until I see you in the next video, you all take care of yourselves. You keep your heads up, and more importantly, no matter how you do it, you keep growing. Bye-bye, y'all.